Now, there are plenty of great moments in horror that come completely out of nowhere, these real shocking surprise moments that somehow help to really enhance the whole experience, because, you know, if any genre is going to surprise you, it's going to be horror. But on the other hand, there are also plenty of moments that come out of nowhere in the worst way possible and kind of take you out of the experience. They remove you from the moment. It takes some real skill to balance between these two feelings, and it's the sign of a great horror if every surprise is just how it should be. But unfortunately, lots of horrors don't strike that balance quite right. So I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are the 10 most out of place scenes in horror movie history. 10. The Vomiting Leper, It Chapter 2. Throughout It Chapter 1 and 2, Pennywise torments the Losers Club by shapeshifting into forms which encompass their greatest fears. Because Eddie is a germaphobe, the wicked clown attacks him in the guise of a leper. Whilst wrestling the decrepit creature, Eddie has a moment of clarity where he refuses to allow Pennywise to scare him. Grasping him defiantly, Eddie shouts an expletive at him, proving he'll no longer live in fear. It's at this exact moment, of course, where Pennywise makes a last-ditch attempt to scare the kid by vomiting just a whole load of green, horrible sick directly onto him, all whilst a song plays in the background. See, it's not the vomit that comes out of nowhere. In a way, that really does make sense. It's the fact that during this skit, a 5-second clip of Juice Newton's song Angel of the Morning is played in the background. Because the whole confrontation up to this point was scary and then even a little uplifting, since, you know, Eddie was facing his fear, this tune ruins the whole moment. It'll be like watching Hannibal Lecter breaking out into Gangnam Style for a few seconds in an otherwise chilling scene. Even though both of the It movies definitely do have comedic moments in them, this one felt a step too far, and for a lot of people really just completely took them out of the moment. 9. Kids talking about mortgages. Old. M. Night Shyamalan has a distinctive way of writing for children so that they speak in an otherworldly manner. Depending on how the dialogue is written, young characters in his work come across as eccentric, funny, or otherwise creepy. But over the years, this trait has become so cliched that it causes a lot of Shyamalan dialogue to sound ridiculous, as can be demonstrated in his latest film, Old. This horror movie mystery revolves around a group trapped on a beach which will cause them to rapidly age. If they don't find a way to escape within a day, they'll die. If you haven't seen the movie, then maybe you'll remember it from the memes of the beach that makes you old, the place that you go to become old. You know, it was kind of ruined for a lot of people before they even saw it. Even though that sounds like a fascinating premise, the element that most viewers remember the most is the unnatural dialogue, especially from the boy Trent. Whilst playing with another boy, he says, "You can come to my house and make up stories. Then we can go to the same college together and become neighbours with mortgages." You would expect that line from a spoof like Airplane or Scary Movie, but not an R-rated horror directed by a filmmaker once hailed as the next Spielberg. Considering this movie centres around a time-altering beach and has scenes surrounding magical coral and a child having a baby, it's bewildering how a child discussing mortgages is still one of the most out-of-place parts. 8. The Santa Story. Gremlins. In Gremlins, a failed inventor buys a mogwai called Gizmo for his son Billy for Christmas. After Gizmo spawns a horde of gremlins, they tear the house apart and terrorise the city. Whilst Billy is assessing the damage to his home, his sort of girlfriend Kate suddenly says the gremlins have given her a new reason to hate Christmas. She tells this really intense story about how when she was a kid, her dad tried to surprise her for Christmas by coming down the chimney dressed as Santa. I mean, there's a reason that that becomes a story and not something that most parents do, because as you would expect, it goes wrong, her dad gets stuck and then ends up breaking his neck. And that, she says, is how she found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. First off, this movie is PG, so a lot of kids learned the truth about Santa during this monologue, so cheers Kate for that. Maybe give us a spoiler warning next time. Secondly, what does this speech have to do with anything? It isn't brought up again and it has zero payoff. In fact, this haunting monologue received so many complaints that filmmaker Joe Dante poked fun at it by giving Kate another depressing story to tell in the sequel. 7. The Man with No Ass. Doom. Doom follows a group of space marines sent to investigate a research facility on Mars, and shows how when they first arrive they realise that everyone there has been transformed into hellish monsters. About 10 minutes in, we see our hero John Grimm and the rest of his squad being transported to the Red Planet using a teleportation jelly. When they arrive, they're greeted by a technician called Pinky. The marines are a little confused by Pinky's appearance, since his entire lower body has been replaced with a cybernetic wheelchair. When asked what happened, John explains that there was a mix-up when Pinky teleported to Mars, whereby he went to Mars and his ass went to another galaxy. Despite the fact that Doom is an R-rated horror, there is no way anyone can take this movie seriously once this ridiculous line is uttered. I mean, he went to one galaxy, his ass went to another. That's objectively hilarious. In case you were wondering, this character is not from the video game series the movie was extremely loosely based on, meaning that the filmmakers consciously chose to have this whole bit about his disappearing ass be included in the film just for the fun of it. Everything about this scene is so goofy, it feels like a deleted scene from Galaxy Quest or Spaceballs. 6. Frankenstein does the unthinkable. Frankenstein must be destroyed. Usually I'll admit I avoid or replace entries like this, but just for the sake of showing how ridiculous this is, I'm going to talk about it. During the 1950s, Hammer Films rebooted all the classic Universal monster movies, including The Mummy, Dracula, and Frankenstein. Each of the Frankenstein films has the mad scientist attempting to create a life form out of human remains to prove his genius to the world. In the 5th entry, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, the titular character kidnaps a man from a mental institution and uses his body to create his new creature. Just as Frankenstein is about to complete his experiment though, he drops everything, goes up to the bedroom of his landlady Anna, and you can all guess what happens next. Even though technically Frankenstein is a murderer, he tends to be kind of depicted quite sympathetically in a way that you end up rooting for him. This, however, completely ruined that. In a turn that all of us could absolutely see coming, Veronica Carlson, the woman who played Anna, explained that this scene wasn't originally in the script or meant to be included, but the studio ended up putting it in because they wanted to sex up the film. Yeah, nothing says sexy like non-consensual intercourse. Even though the actors and the director were adamantly against it, they were bullied into filming the sequence. The actor that plays Frankenstein, Peter Cushing, stated that he detested performing this scene more than anything else in his whole acting career. So yeah, this was bad for everyone involved. Maybe don't do this if you want to sex up your film. 5. The Locust Suit. Exorcist 2: The Heretic. The Exorcist concluded with the demon Pazuzu being removed from Regan's body, but in Exorcist 2: The Heretic, Regan believes Pazuzu still lingers inside her, and so takes steps to expel the dark spirit. When Father Lamont learns of a man called Dr. Kokomo who freed himself from Pazuzu years earlier, he tracks him down, hoping to use his knowledge to defeat the demon permanently. However, the scene where Lamont meets the man is impossible to take seriously, since the Doctor wears an outfit which resembles a locust. Even though James Earl Jones is a phenomenal actor, not even his talents can stop his character looking like a D-list Spider-Man villain. The weirdest part is that this isn't even the weirdest part. Kokomo spits a tomato onto the ground which is filled with spikes. Lamont falls over and impales himself on the blades, only to be suddenly teleported to an office where Kokomo is dressed normally. Although this moment is crucial since Kokomo discusses Pazuzu's origin, most viewers don't listen to a word he says since they're still trying to process what the hell just happened in the previous scene. Seriously, why did he spit a tomato? 4. Jelly Side Down. In Devil, 5 strangers find themselves trapped in an elevator together and one by one they start dying. They soon deduce that the killer is amongst them and that, given the name, he's probably the devil. Even though M. Night Shyamalan only devised the story and left the directing duties to someone else, his influence can be felt throughout the movie. Devil has all the usual Shyamalanisms, big edits, weird twists, and dialogue that sounds like it was written by an alien. However, there's one moment which stands out for how bonkers it is. Throughout the film, the group trapped in the elevator are being monitored on a security camera by the police. When people start dying, the security guard, Ramirez, hypothesizes that they're being picked off by the devil, as is the totally logical conclusion. When his colleagues rightfully doubt him, he decides to prove that the Prince of Darkness is near by using an absolutely irrefutable method. He drops his toast. Because the piece of bread lands jelly side down, he claims that this is irrefutable evidence that the devil walks among them. Even though the cops don't take him seriously, it's baffling how everyone in the room doesn't just burst out laughing. 3. Nudity and GPS. Friday the 13th, 2009. The 2009 Friday the 13th remake starts exactly how you would expect. A bunch of horny campers go into the woods to get busy and are promptly murdered by Jason Voorhees. Even though this reboot is pretty mediocre, this opening is especially poor due to its uneven tone. While geeky Wade is talking to his friend Richie, he's distracted by his girlfriend Amanda, who's teasing him by taking her clothes off. While Wade drones on, Richie isn't listening to a word he says saying, since he's too busy watching Amanda touching her own body. Although this is meant to be a sexy scene, Wade rambles on and on about science throughout Amanda's entire striptease, which is really jarring. Now, this is the 12th outing of this franchise, so no one's expecting a masterfully crafted scene. However, we were also not expecting to see a woman rubbing baby oil all over her breasts whilst a character discusses NASA, global positioning systems, and syncing up different kinds of data. I mean, it seems very odd to most of us, but there's probably someone out there for whom that is right up their alley. 2. The song, The Killing of the Sacred Deer. The Killing of a Sacred Deer follows Surgeon Stephen as he befriends a teenager called Martin. Even though Stephen thinks Martin is disturbed, he feels guilty that he failed to save the boy's father, and so agrees to spend time with him. But as Martin's infatuation with Stephen becomes obsessive, he suspects that his family might be in grave danger. As can be seen in Yorgos Lanthimos' other films like The Lobster and The Favourite, the Greek filmmaker likes to have his characters act and speak in an unnatural, almost dreamlike manner. And even though most of the scenes are somewhat surreal and definitely very uncomfortable, there's one that stands out amongst the rest as being particularly bizarre. After Martin befriends Stephen's daughter, Kim, she takes him to the park and sings Ellie Goulding's Burn. Even though Kim is off-key, she keeps singing, proving she trusts Martin and doesn't mind being vulnerable in front of him. In a way, this could be quite sweet, you know, young love, sharing your passions with someone, but the fact that the scene goes on for just a bit too long, oh, you'll feel it, you really will feel it. It's incredibly awkward and cringy, and though I know this is kind of exactly what they were going for, it feels like the song could have definitely been a few seconds shorter. But you know, why go for a 10-second singing interval when you can do it for 2 minutes straight? If you're not nervously laughing by the end of this scene, then you are a better person than me. 1. Malus punches a woman whilst dressed as a bear. The Wicker Man. Nothing says a great weekend like dressing up in a bear suit and going around punching people, am I right, fellas? Like the original Wicker Man, the 2006 remake follows a police officer who ventures to an island to locate a missing girl. After doing all he can to uncover the truth, the cop learns he was lured to the island to serve as a sacrifice for a pagan ritual. Although the remake did kind of fail to capture the magic of the original, it wasn't a complete waste because it meant that lead star Nicolas Cage could go around Nicolas Caging as much as his little Nicolas Cage heart desired. Even though the sequences revolving around the bees or the dropkick are unintentional comedy gold, the creme de la creme is watching Cage punch a woman whilst dressed as a bear. Horror fans have seen this clip on the internet so many times it's easy to get desensitized to just how absurd it is. But look at it this way. There were devoted fans of the original movie who got their ticket for this remake on the day of its release, hoping to see a wonderful reimagining of this cult classic. One can only imagine how bewildered these viewers were whilst watching an Academy Award-winning actor knocking a woman's lights out whilst draped in an animal carcass. Now that is art. And that brings us to the end of this list, actually. This has been the 10 most out-of-place scenes in horror movie history, and if you have more you would have included on this list, then please let me know in the comments down below. As always, remember to check out whatculture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day, and I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.